I went back and looked at chart. I'm a chartist as well. Um, and I love, and I study market psychology, and I'm seeing the exact same signs that I saw in, say, 1999 through like 2002. I'm seeing those same uh, that same market psychology starting to play out right now.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Angel Research Podcast. We're here as usual today to discuss the market's hottest stock stories and investment opportunities. Today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Brian Hicks, who is the founder and owner of Angel Publishing. Brian is a pretty successful businessman and investor, and today he's going to talk with us about some intelligent investment decisions he made in 2022. We're going to talk about some recent predictions made by the team here at Angel Publishing, talking about Bitcoin, gold, commodities, etc. We're going to talk about Brian's market outlook in 2023, maybe some of his favorite investment opportunities, and we may even reveal some of these secrets to his success. Quick disclaimer, nothing that we say here today is personal financial advice. We can give you tools and insights, but we can't make trades for you. Also, please like, comment, and subscribe, or even better, join our Discord community, which we've recently launched. This is a private investment community of like-minded speculators, investors. It is completely free to join. The only catch is that there are limited slots in the links below. We'll leave those links in the description and in a comment, which we will pin to the top of the page. Welcome, Brian, to the show.
Thank you.
I think maybe for those who don't know, we should maybe you can tell us who you are, why you started Angel Publishing, what Angel Publishing is, and then maybe give us a quick pitch on why you think that every person or every investor should subscribe to at least one investment newsletter.
Sure. I started in this industry, the financial newsletter publishing industry, in 1994. I had just graduated from graduate school, actually, and I was interested in writing and finance and economics. And in 94, the U.S. was in a recession. And so I applied to a company called Agora, which a lot of people know about. And I applied for a writing job, but I didn't get a writing job. They called me in for a customer service job with the promise that if I, learned the ropes, that I would become, I could advance to be a writer. And I took the job because there weren't many jobs available, even for a graduate school grad. And when I took the job, when I started, I couldn't believe that a company like that, like Agora, existed. It was so non-mainstream. It was mainstream media. They were talking about things that for at the time were just really, really off the wall and kind of underground stuff. And I just fell in love with it. And Bill Bonner, who's the president and founder of Agora, he was a bit of a revelation for me. He was a deep thinker. He's probably the greatest essayist of my generation. And I was at Agora for 10 years. And I quickly grew from customer service rep to launching my own investment services. And by the time, by the 10-year mark, I had become a pretty big fish in a very small pond. And there were things I wanted to do that Agora wasn't going to allow me to do. Talk about really sort of predictions that were really, really, just revolutionary at the time. Like, for instance, like peak oil, like the world was running out of cheap, easy to get oil. And so I started Angel in 2004, really on the back of that single idea. And, the rest you could say is history. And that one prediction really started this garden that was fertile for other like-minded people to come to Angel with what they saw were these visionary ideas and predictions that nobody was talking about at the time. And still to this day, nobody talks about. if you look at our history, at our predictions, we were ahead of pretty much every major prediction in the last 20 years. And that's why I think people, if that's what you like, and if you're a like-minded person when it comes to, being ahead of the crowd, that's why you should read our stuff.
All right, fair enough. Speaking of you being a little bit ahead of the curve, I want to kind of reverse a little bit, go back to the beginning of 2022. I know that you sold a lot of your stocks, pretty early in the year, and then you kind of started buying back in. I was hoping you could kind of walk us through your strategy at the time. What was going on in your head? What information were you basing some of your decisions on? Maybe you could say how some of those decisions played out for you.
Sure. Well, it actually started in late 2021, actually. I was on a road trip with my family, and I have nephews that are in their early 20s. And during this road trip, they kept asking me questions about cryptocurrencies. And, they knew what they were talking about. But the fact that I was, they were asking me all these questions about stuff that I didn't even know about.
Yeah.
I saw that as a bad sign that this maybe the cryptocurrency market was a bubble about to burst, and because there was so much speculation, so much speculative capital in cryptocurrencies, it was going to spread through other markets. Okay, and that's when I started warning people here. I was like, that's a bad sign.
You were definitely vocal about it.
Yeah, I was definitely vocal about it. And I started selling, and lo and behold, that my prediction wasn't really a prediction. I just started telling people, hey, you might want to think twice about this. And so I started selling. I sold pretty much, my entire portfolio in the first quarter of 2022. After in November of 2021. I was just seeing signs, like just personally, that things were about to pop.
Sure.
So that's what I did, and anybody who was willing to listen to me, I hope they took my advice, because all that capital, all that speculative capital in cryptocurrencies, it had a contagion, and just everything else started to sell off.
So heading into 2023. If you could say that there's, one lesson or one takeaway that investors could have picked up from last year, what would it be?
It's read history books about market bubbles, because, what happened in cryptocurrency was a textbook example of what happens when a speculative frenzy pops. And, I've been in this industry for, 30, almost 30 years now, and I was around for the .com bubble and bust. And I went back and looked at I'm a chartist as well. And, I love, and I'm also, I study market psychology, and I'm seeing the exact same signs that I saw in, say, 1999 through like 2002. I'm seeing those same, that same market psychology starting to play out right now.
So you feel like we're kind of in a very similar situation of a post-.com boom where stocks have sold off and there's a lot of good buying opportunities out there right now?
There is, but there's a hangover effect. Okay, so, a lot of people don't know this, but, the tech, the NASDAQ was tech heavy. That's where all the speculation was in 98 through 2000, okay? The NASDAQ never got back to its 2000 level. It took it 15 years. Okay, so there was a huge hangover.
Yeah.
My opinion, there's going to be a huge hangover with cryptocurrency as well. It might not take 15 years, but it's going to take a while. And all that speculative capital that was in a .com bubble of 98 through 2000, that's going to go into other asset classes. Or it went into other asset classes like commodities and gold and silver. Same thing's going to happen with all that speculative capital that just left cryptocurrencies. It's going to go elsewhere now. So that's where I see the opportunities today, is that speculation is going to be going into, I believe we're heading into a commodity super cycle. So that's where I'm putting my money right now.
Yeah. So I want to. You've been talking about some predictions that some people at Angel have been making. I kind of want to run down a list of like I told you so's that you kind of had, what you were hitting me up with
Sure.
before we came in here. So I guess you mentioned Bitcoin. You mentioned a gold setup for a bull market. Luke Burgess calling the bottom. You mentioned that commodity super cycle, and then you mentioned expansion of energy infrastructure. Could you comment on any of those?
Yeah, sure. If you go back and if you look at our if you look at our podcast from November 10th, and we can play a clip for that, right, John? So until you see that, and I think we're seeing that right now, like some of these strong hands are not just folding their cards, but they're actually going bankrupt.
So where's the bottom then?
I think the bottom rate. I would say I think the bottom's happening right now.
So buy?
I would be a buyer. Yeah. We actually said that it was such a huge sell-off in cryptocurrencies that there was going to be, you could call it a dead cat bounce or just a rebound, and we actually said it was cryptocurrency was at a bottom.
Pretty much going hard into the biggest risks I can find. I have obviously like a mainstream portfolio with low risk stuff in it, and I do have cash enough to live off for a while if the shit really hits the fan, but I'm taking the biggest risks ever.
That's a sign of a bottom. That's a sign of a market bottom. The fact that he's taken the biggest risks of his life.
Well, I'm taking the biggest risks because I think that we're nearing a bottom, or at least approaching it.
And since then, as of yesterday, from November 10th to yesterday, Bitcoin's up 60%. I can't tell you what it's going to be a year from now. All I know is that was a no-brainer play.
Mm-hmm.
Another call we made, and this was our resource expert was Luke Burgess, and on November 9th, he published an article. I got it right here actually. Gold prices have bottomed out. Invest now. And that was November 9th of last year. And since then, gold is up 12%. Okay. That was another no-brainer because all that speculative capital that was being led out of Bitcoin or all cryptocurrencies was going to other hardcore assets like gold and silver.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you see a bullish 2023 for commodities. Any gold, silver? Could I throw a dart at the board randomly, or are there any commodities that you think like specifically are going to crush it?
Well, I think anything that has any sort of application
Mm-hmm.
to the current energy transition that we're going through. So, lithium, graphite, graphene, copper, all those commodities are, in my opinion, are in the beginning phases of a long bull market, because I saw that exact same scenario play out 20 years ago.
Yeah. And if you're trying to get exposure to those markets, are you just kind of like, are you trying to buy something that just like follows the price of the asset, or are you going for more speculative plays that are going to leverage the money, like miners and individual companies that are participating in these in those commodities?
Well, I actually went back and I did some more historical research, and had you bought like Newmont Mining in 2000, that was up 400% in like 2 or 3 years. And same way with the junior miners. It was a broad-based bull market.
Yeah.
However, by say 2010, there were something like 600 uranium miners out in the market.
Yeah.
So you have to buy when people hate it, and sell it when people love it.
Sure.
It's just it's the age-old axiom.
So everyone's jumping on the bandwagon, and you want to get in there before
Totally,
as
yeah.
early as possible.
Right. Well, I mean, everybody was hating Bitcoin, late in late last year, and all these big firms were going out of business, and there was something investors, only 8% of investors had a favorable opinion of cryptocurrency. When I see psychology like that,
Yeah.
that is the time to back up the truck.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of it's the common theme with Angel is that there's always been a contrarian stance on things. We were telling people to buy Bitcoin when it was like, I don't know, like it was like $40 or something. It was like really cheap, and we were telling people to sell when it was going crazy. So I do think that that's probably one of the key ways to make money in the market is to, take advantage of that psychological aspect because, that's where people get pricing wrong is when they let their emotions kind of, guide their decision making. And if you can take advantage of that, then it's a pretty easy way to make a, fairly quick buck.
I actually think we were talking about Bitcoin in like 2010, 2011.
It was early.
I've
dug up some really early articles and it was like,
and, back then it was still, it was unproven.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of angel publishing is like we check all the boxes on what makes, a new technology potentially huge, okay? And sometimes we take a risk, and sometimes that risk does crazy well. Sometimes it doesn't. I mean, you're not perfect.
Yeah.
But this one was perfect.
Okay, so we've already talked about some areas of the market that you like in 2023. Are there any kind of like red flags or dangerous sectors that you think that investors should stay away from?
Well, I'm not sure I would be a crypto buyer right now. I mean, it's up 60% in 3 months.
Sure.
I would wait for a pullback. So I would be very, very cautious in that market. I would be a big buyer right now of tech. Okay, a huge buyer because it got decimated last year.
Yeah.
So I would be a huge buyer of tech right now. I would be I would be buying gold and silver on dips. Any commodity, pretty much all major commodities, I'd be buying on dips for a long bull market. Right now, I think a rising tide lifts all ships, and so I think right now we're in a rising tide right now. So pretty much anything that you want to buy, it's gonna go up. So right now it's a good time.
Okay. Are there any black swan events that you could see happening in the next year that you think that people aren't prepared for? Or even maybe there are some of the obvious ones. What are some things that really scare you?
Oh yeah, well, the one that really stands out for me is a military conflict with China.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean we've seen what Russia and Ukraine, what's happening there, and that seems to be a long drawn out war. I mean we're going on a year now. Whether or not nukes happen, if Putin resorts to nukes, I think that's already priced into the market. What's not priced into the market is if China invades Taiwan,
Mm-hmm.
and what the world reaction is going to be to that.
Have you been following the news at all with the spy balloon?
I
Have you
have.
seen anything about that? What's going on there?
Well, I mean, they're saying it's a weather balloon.
Yeah, that's what China is saying.
That's
right?
what China is saying.
Yeah.
But they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're seeing how far they can
Sure.
push it and see what our reaction is going to be. An interesting tidbit is that next week I'm going to Thailand for 2 weeks, and I'm going to be asking a lot of questions over there of people in Asia of what their opinion is of what they see, what's going on.
Sure.
So I should, boots on the ground, I should have a pretty good idea of what they think is happening and what they're predicting is going to happen in the next year or two.
Yeah, that makes sense to kind of. I mean, I feel like we can live in our own bubble, and to get that kind of outside perspective is definitely valuable.
Totally.
So, wanted to ask you about a retirement letter that you've been talking about potentially launching. Do you have any details on that you're willing to share yet? What's it going to involve? Maybe a target date for when you're...
Sure. The tentative name of the letter is Alpha Retirement and Lifestyle, and it basically is it's a letter that's going to be modeled off my life.
Mm-hmm.
not just retirement investments, but also as you know, I'm a workout freak, and I'm 54 years old, and I'm in the best shape of my life. Okay, and it's not that I have any sort of insight, like unique insight. I follow smart people. Okay, and I've condensed it all into this one program where it's mind, body, spirit, and especially for people my age who are really, everybody I talk to my age, they're so interested in living a healthier lifestyle, and I want to make that happen, and not just health, but just philosophically, just living the good life, and doesn't it the secret is it doesn't take that much. It just takes dedication and motivation. As you know, I'm a pickleball fanatic, and that's where I get my cardio. I hate running.
Yeah.
But when I play pickleball, if I play pickleball for 2 or 3 hours, I'm just drenched in sweat. So that's one of the keys is find something that you love doing so much that you don't even think that you're actually exercising. So, and that,
All right. I have a bunch of additional topics on here. AI, ChatGPT, you got any comments on that?
Well, in terms of the actual technology, we are we're at the beginning phases of a revolution.
I think so too.
So, just as the internet disrupted so many industries, and Apple's iPhone disrupted so many industries, AI is gonna disrupt a lot, and we shouldn't be scared of it. Okay, we should actually embrace it because it's going to make our lives a lot better. It's going to enhance our lives, and even if you are scared, we'll just adapt to it. Okay, I grew up, when I was in high school, the way I published papers was on a Brother typewriter. Okay, when the PC came out, were people scared that all those jobs at typewriter factories were going to go away? Well, maybe, but 30 years later, we just adapted to it, and so we're going to adapt. We're gonna adapt to this. We're going to engage. We're going to use it to great effect, and the wealth that's going to be created by these companies is going to be phenomenal. Just the way internet and Apple's smartphone, the smartphone, the iPhone, wasn't just that in itself created other industries. Like how many people became millionaires by just developing apps like Instagram and Snap and all these. So that it's going to be huge.
Yeah, well, I think people are always afraid of change.
Sure they are.
And obviously it's going to I think AI is going to destroy a lot of jobs, but it's also going to create a lot of jobs as well. And yeah, I mean, you can't be the Luddites who were smashing the stocking frames, during the Industrial Revolution, and those people always lose. They don't, you're the only way you're going to win is to embrace the change and to be the guy who's opening up the factory.
Change is constant, so either embrace it or be left in a dustbin of history.
All right, I got one more group of questions before I let you go today. We've got a lot of economic data over the past week or two. We got some response from the Fed. We got the jobs report that crushed estimates today. What's your thoughts and opinions on all that?
Well, I think we are. I think we're going into an economic expansion. I mean, we COVID and the lockdowns. I can't overestimate the economic damage that these lockdowns did to economies all around the world, especially in America. You look around here, and our office is in Baltimore City, and you walk around just a couple blocks, and you still see empty storefronts.
Oh yeah, this neighborhood got decimated. So many neighborhoods.
This neighborhood got decimated, and so many restaurants went out of business. And I'll never forgive these people for what they did. I won't. Okay. There was a lot of people who predicted what was going to happen, and they didn't listen.
Yep.
So
I have an article that I wrote when I was still writing for Angel, and just like I was basically saying that the economic consequences of this are going to be absolutely massive, and I was demonized at the time, and got like completely blasted by people on Twitter and whatever, like that you're like a bad person for considering what was going to happen, and we're finally seeing those effects, and they're coming into play. And it just feels like people, everyone who was pushing that agenda is just kind of like getting away with it scot-free. Like
that's why you work for Angel, right?
Yeah.
I had a party. I had a Chinese New Year's party over the weekend, and we actually talked about this, and you could tell the people that were so pro-vax that all of a sudden, they're starting to like, man, what happened?
Yeah.
Like it didn't protect me. I got sick. So that's why, we're that one voice out in the wilderness that says, hey, maybe there's a different perspective. Why are they pushing this so hard? And
Pfizer got record profits. You see that?
Record profits, and then he warned that he almost begrudgingly warned that it's like, well, next year is going to be different, because it's the pandemic is coming to an end.
Sure. All right. Well, Brian, it's been good having you on. For everyone that's listening, please check out the links below, join the Discord, be part of the conversation, and let us know what you think. And like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.